Well, good morning everyone for the last time in 2022. Good afternoon and perhaps even good evening. Thank you so much for being here and enjoying this super spontaneous, slightly delayed afternoon stream that we're going to do on New Year's Eve 2022. Just in case you're watching the recording of this sometime in the distant future, it is still for us 2022. For most of us on the Eastern Seaboard and in Europe, people in Asia, New Zealand and Australia, they're already enjoying the future. So very cool. It is wonderful to see so many of you here that probably have party plans tonight, like Mr. Chris, the Sacred Sage and the Deviant, Miss Julia, Casey. Casey is in the future already. Ooh, how exciting. Tell us about the future, Casey. Sydney is here. Mr. Dragonette is here. Web Soul. Thank you so much for being a Jazzy Bear Brown. I thought you'd like a bit of Wonder Shakes, you know, because I do like her too. I like them too. And it took me a while to dig them out. So speaking of music, thank you also for removing that little spam comment there, Brian. Very cool. Mr. Jeremy, always good to see you. And Daniel, of course, and Mr. Nate, and Charles is here. Very exciting. So many of you are here. Have I missed anyone? Dustin is here. Naughty Road is also here. And that is it. That is anyone I can see in the chat. My return here is a little bit laggy, but I think I can see the chat. Okay, forgotten lectures. Soon midnight, indeed. I thought I'm going to do this today because that means if I stay on for about 2 hours, I get to wish you all a Happy New Year live. Isn't that cool? From all of us here at Daz, as well as the WP Guru team. I thought we're going to listen to some background music. I'm thinking, let's see if we can make that happen. I've got some good saved playlists that will be kind of, they've changed this around. Are we in for happy jazz, quiet piano things, or some dreamy beats? 2 hours, 38 minutes. That should get us into the new year, shouldn't it? Let's see. Can we hear it? Can I hear it? I can hear stuff. I hope you can hear that too. Just a little bit of bubbling in the background. I don't like it to be, you know, too brutal and too loud. Charles, let me show you what we're going to do today. So I have a loose plan, but I'm super happy to be, thank you, Julia, but I'm super happy to be interrupted by things. So first of all, there has been, tonight in New York, there's going to be the New York, or let's say a Times Square ball drop event. And in case you're not familiar with it, that is something, oh, look at that. Thank you, Google. They're doing this every year since I think since the century, I think, that on a building in Times Square, a ball is being dropped, and it drops kind of for about a minute, and then it lands at midnight kind of on the ground, something like that. And this is what it looks like. And when I looked at that, I mean, this is a slight interpretation of it, but this is kind of what the ball looks like. They have different patterns on it every year. And I thought we can kind of recreate something like that, because that looks just like an icosphere, doesn't it? So I've seen that in Blender before. And my plan is we can just go and make that in Blender and then go and bring it into Daz Studio, including the pole, and then we can kind of, you know, make it go down, make it animate, and to make it a little bit more interesting, we can try to animate the colors on the ball as it's dropping there. I don't know, maybe we don't need to make it a whole 1 minute animation, we can just make it a 10-second animation. And if we have time, something that WebSoul suggested, maybe we can mix it up with an animated VDB file that basically when the ball drops, we have something like, you know, kind of a smoke effect coming out there, something like that. So, you know, that's kind of the loose plan, but I'm very happy to amend that. So a little bit of Blender modeling and some funky pictures here. That is that, isn't it? This is what Times Square looks like. It's going to look like tonight. Similar. Yeah, so every year there's some patterns on here. And I'm thinking that's just an icosphere with this bit removed and then just a cylinder with something like a ball on the top. So we can make that happen, and then we're just going to animate that in Daz Studio, set some material zones up, and that is that. We're going to do that with something called ABAS, the Animated Shader System. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about lighting. So there is a thread that the wonderful Jack Tomlin has made me aware of today, and that is something that has happened as a kind of response by the guys who make Iray, which is no longer in video. The guys who make Iray, they have made a change in the latest version of Iray, and that brings back the invisibilizable ghost lights. And I don't know if you had heard of it. One of my viewers has brought that to my attention, and I was a little little bit lost when I read that comment, but I've heard about this today. This is kind of in the current beta version of Daz Studio. There's support for it in there, but it requires a couple of scripts to make that work. And Rob from Daz was kind enough to post those scripts at the bottom. Here, these are the scripts. He explains how this works. These are the 2 scripts, and these are 3 scene files that you can go and download and try out. But I'm going to go and set this up from scratch before we get going. So that's basically bringing the Ghost Lights back, or the functionality of Ghost Lights as it was, or even easier as it was before Daz Studio 4.15, I believe it came out. Let me go and do this with the beta version of Daz Studio, and we'll get going with that. How are you all? What are your plans for tonight? Please let me know. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. I know Chris tonight is going to stream. That's quite nice, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Chris's channel, if you're still around, if you want to watch more 3D content. Chris does a Saturday Night Social, and that is a good hangout spot. You get to show your artwork, you get to just hang out with a wonderful crowd, and sometimes you see Chris modeling things. That's not so much today, but probably during the week. Chris makes clothing for Daz Studio in Marvelous Designer, as well as Blender, and he also textures in Substance Painter. So very, very cool. So Ghost Lights, the new old Ghost Lights functionality. So this is something that is available as of Daz Studio 4.21.1.26. This is the beta version. So it's not in the release version at the moment, but that when this comes to the release version, it'll be in there. So it'll also have updated default resources where those scripts are going to be just conveniently callable from your content library, but we're not at that point yet. But I just wanted to give you a heads up how that works. So let me go and just create like a super simple scene here. Let me go and make a plane that's maybe like 5 meters. That's our ground plane. Let's say, is that really 5 meters? That's not 5 meters, is it? Terrible that. Let's go and make that maybe 1,000 times or 10 times larger. There. That's our ground, and our ground is kind of dark maybe, and less glossy than it is by default. Yes, good. Yes, that good. And we're going to make that, and this is just a little bit of sugar coating glossy roughness. We crank that up so that it's less shiny. This is our ground. Perfect. Getting into the modeling spirit here already. Yes, Night Tech, do that, relax tonight. That is my plan also. Sacred Sage, exactly. And also, very important point to remember, Daz never broke the Ghost Lights. It was all the guys who made Iray. It was never the guys at Daz. They just integrate a new version of Iray if and when it comes out, which is nice. But if the guys who make Iray make a change, then that is kind of out of their hands. What happens to functionality that was a hack to begin with? So I'm going to make a sphere, and that's going to be our object. Sphere? Nah, sphere is boring. Let's go and make a pressing X as if it was Blender. Let's go and make a torus instead here. Torus. All right. Yeah, perfect. Nice. I like to make the torus, give that a little color. So maybe we'll make him, I don't know, maybe blue. Groovy. And I'll leave him as glossy as it is. And now I'll go and create my own ghost light, or like basically just a mesh light. And you don't have to use a product. The product happens to be called Ghost Lights, but you can create these things totally from scratch. And it is just depending on the type of light object you like. I'm going to go and use a plane for this, and this is not going to be Y positive because that kind of lies down. It's going to be Z positive, I'll say, and that means it stands up. And this is going to be called I'll call it my light. I'll go and bring, I'm going to go and bring that forward a bit like so, and maybe up like that, slightly forward again. And go and turn that round, shine that directly at my guy, maybe angle it down a little bit, maybe bring that up, something like that. So that's not quite a light just yet, but it will be in a moment. Let me go and change this to NVIDIA Iray so that we see what my scene looks like right now. So there's already light in there, but that doesn't come from here. That comes from my HDRI that's in there. So under render settings, environment, let me go and turn that. I could turn it off so then we see complete blackness, or just make it a little bit, just a little hint there that we see something on the screen, like so. Okay, that's kind of my base scene here. With my light object selected, what I would do in order to make this emissive is I'll head over here to emission and give this any color other than black. So let's say white on the emission channel, and to make that really glow here, I'm going to go and turn this into watts, and then I'll go and turn this into, let's say, 100 watts, and then I can see it shining some light on here. There we go. See like a little catch light reflection here. Maybe I'll go and make it 200, something like that, or maybe even 500. There we go. That's nice and light. And to have a really nice lighting effect, I might imagine that's a character now or something. I'll go and turn that over to here, and imagine we had two of those. It's kind of a standard fashion light setup that you have two soft boxes kind of from the side, something from the back. If you were to then shoot this from here, you want to maybe avoid having the emitter visible. And if it's a parametric light, it's just a button to switch that on. But with the ghost lights, like with this new implementation, with the current implementation, let's say, you had to go and turn the invisibility on the cutout opacity right down here. So not to 0, because that turns the emitter off completely. You had to, so 1 is completely visible, 0 is completely invisible. But if you were to kind of add like 6 zeros in here, so like 0.123455 and then a 1, then it's almost invisible. But if you now crank up the luminosity, it would kind of come back, but it would still leave little fireflies there. So that's not really a great solution, but it was a workable solution. So the new version of the ghost lights that we now have is that we add a script on this thing, that we execute a script. So you'll be able to call that from the content library at one point. I can't. I have to go and literally merge it in. I'm going to use this method B here. There's 3 ways of making that happen. So method A is create your light objects. Then on the surfaces tab, set the refraction index and the refraction weight to 1. Then we call the first script, which is the add Iray visible primary rays property. And then we're going to switch that to off. And then we're going to call the other script. And that is, and then you set the light factor to a value of 1. I think it's just literally calling the 2 scripts. That also works. So I'm going to go do that. So since it's not in the content library, I'll go to File with my light selected, Merge, and there's these 2 things here: Iray visible to primary rays and ghost light factor property. So this is the first one that you need to call, I think. And that is 1. That now brings us, I believe, a property here on display, Iray visible to primary ray. So this is kind of new here. That's been added here. And I think, I mean, I'm new to this as well. Let's just figure this out together. We do that. Then we switch that to off. Plonk. And then we, oh, look at that, it's already gone. That's it. Don't I need to run a second script? I guess I don't. Perfect. That's actually fairly easy. I thought we need to run that second script. Add Iray ghost light factor property. Well, let's go and bring that in as well, just in case. To merge. Oh, that was easy. I thought it was the other one as well. Ghost light factor property. I don't see a major change. In fact, I don't see a change at all. So the idea behind that is that you'll have literally in the content library, in the default resources, you'll have just a script that you can call as an icon from there, and you can probably put that onto the menu bar as well. And then the ghost lights are going to be back as they were. So not so much as they were, the functionality will have been restored, but it's so what happened under the hood, if I understand this correctly, is that a property in Iray has been exposed that the Daz devs can hook into, so that we now have this functionality, much like we have it in parametric lights when you switch off the emitter. So that's kind of cool, and we have it literally as a toggle now, so you can bring that back if you wanted to position it, and you can switch it off, and then that's that. If your Iray viewport doesn't immediately catch up with this, if you switch this on or off and you can still see the light in here, then don't worry about it. Just move your viewport and then Iray catches up and recalculates this. Let me just go and render this out. We just make absolutely sure there's no, what's it called here? The fireflies in there. Let's go do that. I'm going to go and switch the denoiser off with 1000 iterations, and I'll literally just go and render right through this here, like so. See what it looks like. So yeah, very good news there, and Rob's made these 2 scripts available, and you can test it already, but you have to have the Daz Studio beta version, the current beta version, so 4.21.1.26, I believe. Very cool. I thought that was nice. It's nice that you know, that some things, when they seemingly break, developers go to work and then they get fixed. It just, you know, doesn't happen overnight because it's just a team effort and all that. Yes, I'm not entirely sure, Sacred Sage, how this affects existing scenes, because I don't think it's going to be back to as it was in Daz Studio 4.15. I think it's going to be just like a new thing and like a new property. I've heard PAs already thinking about that they might push out an update for existing sets that use emissive surfaces in this way, or just at least check if something has changed. So yeah, that's coming. Camilla, good to see you. Good to see you. Outstanding station, I will do that. I will totally make a note of that. The link to the forum post, I will do that. That's Ghostlights. Any questions about this? Should we try other options here? Should we try the other bits and pieces and examine them, or is this? I'll let you do this in your own time. I think let's do the dropping ball animation. I think that's kind of cool. Figure metrics, yes. Rob is also in charge of that, so I don't know if that is coming or if that is on his radar. But yeah, I believe the measure metrics is his product. I would imagine, I mean, if it's a popular product, many people use it. I know many people that do use it. I personally don't, but yeah, it's nice to see it being popular, I guess. Yoshi, good to see you, buddy. How's it going? Yeah, so just be aware that it's coming. So what I would do if I were you, and this is kind of what I do, leave the current version of Daz Studio 4.21 installed as it is, your release version, and then use the beta version and keep updating that until you're happy that things are working the way you want it. So we all have access to 2 versions of Daz Studio, and I can strongly recommend leaving the release version if you're working a lot with the current way Ghostlights work. Leave that leave that intact, do not update that, and keep updating the beta. That's what the beta version is for, and test that thoroughly and see if it does what you need. And if you don't have access to the beta version right now, then go ahead and download that from dazstudio.com/Daz-Studio-beta. That is a free product that you have to check out, and then it gets added to your account. And once you have that, you can go and download and install it in addition to your current existing version of Daz Studio. Here, this is what it looks like, Daz Studio Pro Beta. And it has a separate section for its own settings. So the settings that you have in your current version of Daz Studio will not be affected by what you have there. And then at the bottom here, under download filter, sorry, that's at the top, isn't it? You can go and scroll down and tag these things and release channels. You have to tick public build. That is the beta version. Private build, we don't have publishing builds, that's what the PAs have, but public build is an additional filter that you have to enable. And then if you go and have a look in the installed versions here, anything that lights up yellow, that is for the beta. So you have to install the Daz Studio, you have to install the default resources. I believe they're the same, aren't they? Yeah, the default resources are the same, but yeah, that's what you have to install, and then that installs itself as an independent package, and then you can go and experiment with this. And meanwhile, leave the release version of Daz Studio as it is until you're happy that all your projects are working. The link, yes, of course. Can I do that? Yes, yes, yes. Here, there we go. That's the beta version. Yeah. Haha, perfect. And the other one, Brian's already posted that, so I'm going to go and yeah, there we go. Perfect. Brian and I on the same page. I love it. I don't know what is happening with my return here. It's really laggy. I'm like a minute behind. So if I sound like I'm not answering your questions, I'm just, my computer is just catching up. He needs a break. So let's go build this little thing here then. I don't know how familiar you are with modeling in Blender, but there's a kind of a primitive object that we can use for this, and that's called an icosphere. Let's do that. This is a nice reference image for this. And I'm going to use the latest Blender version 3.4.1. Oh, you got no driver support until you get a new GPU. Oh, okay. Yes, yes. I think I have 2 really old GPUs in one of my systems. Actually, I'm no longer using them. It's the NVIDIA K4000 cards, I believe. And they're really old. And yeah, that's one of those things. They're really old. And there, I think only Daz Studio 4.12 is supported with that. Laptop speaker still isn't working. Well, I'll wave to you too, Yoshi. I'll wave to you too. Really, you had those, the K4000. They were good cards. 3 GB of RAM. Yeah, it's nice these little things. I keep mine around. I just don't really know what to do with them anymore. So in order to do this, I'm going to go and make an icosphere. And that looks a little, maybe it doesn't have enough resolution compared to this. I mean, I can see the large triangles here, but I think they also have smaller ones here. And I'm going to just reimagine this. So I'm going to go down here to the settings. I'm going to make this one more subdivision. Maybe. It looks more like a ball. It looks less like yes, it looks more like a ball here. And then we can go and give each of these alternate faces here a different color. So I think I'm imagining this is gonna look nice. I can't tell because I haven't actually done it yet, but let's see. So that's our sphere, and it's currently 2 meters in size, so that's good as well. We need to kind of poke a hole into it so that the stick fits through it. Let's go do that into edit mode. I'll hit tab here. I'll just tell you what I'm doing, even though you might be familiar with Blender already. I'll hit the number 7 on my numpad, and I'll go and switch into face mode. I'm going to go deselect everything, and I'm just going to go take these faces here out. So those, press X and then delete the faces. Whoops, not quite. Delete the faces. There we go. And I'll do the same thing at the bottom here. I can now kind of see through this X faces. There we go. And that now has a hole at the top and at the bottom, and it kind of looks like this. So maybe make the hole a little larger. In fact, let's just shall we make it larger? Let's just leave it like this. It'll be a narrow stick. It's fine. But what is obvious is that we have we can now see inside the ball. So I don't think I want to do that. So I'll go and oh, there also these 2 things are not quite lined up, are they? The bottom bit is not in line with the top bit. So let's think about this. If I go and do the selection at the top here, that has 5 sides. It's kind of a pentagon, I guess, a pentagon. And if the circle has 360 degrees, I divide that by 5, I get 72. So in order to turn that a 5th in line, that'll be like RZ72, but it's not going to work because it's still not lined up, I guess. So we need to go and do that, half of that, which is 36. So RZ36. Now the top is exactly aligned with the bottom. Did that make sense what I just did there in my head? It still is an amazing card, isn't it? The K4000. Yeah, absolutely. Nate and I were talking yesterday about the GTX 970, 980. Those were good cards as well. Like old GPUs, that doesn't mean they're useless. They're just, you just need to find correct uses for them. I'm thinking. Let me go and so now that these things are lined up, let me go and put faces in there. So I'll have to select the top edge and the bottom edge. Press F. That's kind of the easiest way to do that. Select that, shift select that, F. F like so, F like so, and F like so. Groovy. Now we have something that looks very similar to the ball. I'm debating whether to turn these back and make them slightly offset at the bottom as well, or just leave it like that. Let's just leave it like this. It's fine. It's a tall thing. We're going to see it mainly from the bottom. The bottom looks okay, so I'm okay with that. Or we can even go and just turn this back. So didn't we just alt select? Did that not work anymore? No, that doesn't work anymore. What a shame. So RZ minus 72, we could do that as well. And now the top and bottom look okay. Whoops, that's not it. RZ minus 36, there we go. Top and bottom look okay, and now the inside is twisted. Maybe I'm actually more happy with that. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. Then at least the faces look okay. Okay, so that's the ball done. I can call that as well the ball. And in regards to the stick, let's just go and start with a cylinder. It doesn't have to be obviously that thick, but it also doesn't have to have that many vertices. So I'm thinking maybe 8 is potentially enough. All we need to do now is make it thinner. So S Shift Z, and that's kind of our stick in the middle. Thinking that's cool. Then we'll go and make that maybe 5 meters tall, or like SZ5. That makes it 5 times taller. Look from the side, GZ. Put that up to something like that. Line it up with the ground here, like so. And then let's put the ball at the top, because that's its starting position as well. So GZ, kind of at the top to about here. I don't want to put it up here. I think there's some little bulge at the top here. I can't quite see that, but I'll put a couple of edge loops in this guy. I'll just go and apply the scale, and then I'll go into edit mode and go into Command R. I'll go and put one edge loop at the bottom. I'll do that just so that should I decide to put a subdivision surface modifier on it, then this geometry doesn't collapse. So if we use this inside Daz Studio, if we create a cylinder inside Daz Studio, it'll go and get these really pointy, ugly edges, because the geometry literally collapses. There's nothing that holds it in place. And I'll do the same at the top. So Control R, that gets this here, then you click, and then you just move this up as it goes and slides into position somewhere here. Well, actually we want to make that bulge, so let me go and do this. And we'll go and extrude that edge out, so or the face out here. So with 3 we go into this face selection mode, and then we go Alt, click that, E, enter, and then we go S Shift Z. Let's make that something like that. That's kind of a bulge at the top there. That's good enough for me. This here also E. No, we don't have to do E. We can just go GZ. Just make that come out a little bit. This could probably do with a little bevel modifier here. So Control B. Just do something like that. That'll also hold the geometry in place a little. And we can do that on these 2 edges as well, I think. With 2, I'll tap into edge mode. That, Control B, do that. Alt, Control B, do that. It's really, really simple. Really simple thing here. I think this here, I'll just give it 1 extra. We could do that here as well, I guess. These bevels can be addictive, so use with caution. There. Now we need to do that here as well then, don't we? Perfect. I think the sphere itself doesn't need such a modifier because it's just gonna, I like this faceted look here, so we're gonna leave that as it is. The Times Square ball, exactly, Ascania. How's it going, buddy? Geodesic is a great word. Yes, absolutely. A geodesic sphere, 12 feet in diameter. My goodness. For those of us who don't have kind of forgotten what geodesic is, what is it? The square ball, Jeremy. Yes. Conveniently dropping the time. I'm so sorry I haven't sent your package out yet, but it is on the fairly high on my to-do list. It'll come over. It'll come over. That's my new name, Geodesic. Really good to see you, buddy. I'm trying to make this in Daz Studio. Well, in a combination between Daz Studio and Blender. So I've built this, and that's cool. This is like, let's call it the pole, and that's the ball. And I think we're kind of all right with this, with the pole, I'm thinking. And the ball here, that's gonna just go. And we're gonna do that in Daz Studio. That's kind of the plan. I think the ball's origin is the ball's origin okay? Let me just go and right click on this and say set origin to geometry. Let's do that. This here, the pole, could probably have its origin at the bottom. Ah. So I'll go and put my cursor is actually in the correct place. So I can just go and tell Blender that I'd like the origin for the pole to be at where the 3D cursor is. So I think Shift S does that. No, it doesn't. It goes, you just right click on it, set origin to 3D cursor, and then this orange dot goes down there. So the advantage is that if I scale this now, S, then it'll happen from the bottom here. Goody. And I think Daz Studio will recognize that as well. So the only other thing that we need to do now is add a few materials here. So first the pole, that only has one material. Oh, do we need to UV unwrap this as well? I think so, right? Thank you, Yoshi. Hey, Etherin, how you doing? Oh, YouTube wanted you to wait for 10 minutes before you could chat? Top of the evening. Yes, Dustin, it's actually happening from my apartment, you know. Let me just have a look at the UV edit, so that the UV mapping. I think, yeah, it's not UV mapped, is it? So select everything. No, it is UV mapped. Let's just pack it a little bit better. Slightly better, slightly better. And we'll do the same with the ball here as well. Yeah, that could be better. You can do it in Blender. I have an add-on that's called the UV Pack Master that does a slightly better job. Apparently, I should really break those up here so I don't have those things. So under, I think, UV, there's something called Smart UV Project, and that goes by where the angles of the object are, and then this looks like that. So it looks a little better. And then the Pack Master can kind of pack it. I might do that on the other, on the stick there as well. Yeah, look, that's just maximize the UV space there a little bit more. It really doesn't make a major difference what we're doing, but let's do that here as well. So UV, Smart UV Project, and that's me thinking that looks better, but without packing, it looks worse. I think I like what it did before there. Okay, let's undo that. There, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Okay, also Jay, save your scene. Let's do that as well. Rox, Happy New Year to you too. I'm really, really glad you're enjoying the Daz Studio Masterclass. That's really, really nice. I saw your little comment. Appreciate you leaving it. I'm really glad it's doing something. Yes, it's been in the works for a while, and the web team did a good job, but it took them a while to put it together. And we ended up retranscoding the video, so putting it live took a little bit longer than we had expected. So I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like it. Let me go to my desktop here and save that here. So they should be clever about this, Jay. It's not 2023 yet, but you know, be clever. Be clever. I'm gonna go and put it into the. And I'm gonna put it on my desktop. Desktop's good. New Year's Eve ball. There we go. That's what we're gonna call it. What are you doing for New Year's Eve? Tell us all about it. Right, it does. It does. I think I have UV Packmaster 2 and they've upgraded to 3, but they said it's not so much about functionality, it's more about API things, and the version 2 will still be working, so I haven't upgraded. Let me go and put some, so this here only needs one material, and I think we're going to call that just pole matte, or just the pole. Pole is good. Just the pole, and it's all the faces. But with the ball here, I would like to have, I'm thinking 3 materials. One is going to be the inside here, and 2 are going to be the outside. So I suppose we could either get creative and put stripes around it, but I think I'm going to go and use an interesting technique that Blender has that I think will work there for us. So I'm going to go and deselect everything, go into face mode, and I'll just select the insides here with Shift, and just selecting all these inside faces here so that we know what the inside is here. I'll go and create myself a new material and call it inside, and I'll go and assign the faces to that. And I'm going to make a new material. I'm going to call that the odds, and I'm going to make another one that's called evens, and I'll go and select everything. Then I'll go and deselect the insides. Whoop, that didn't work. What a shame. Okay, I'll select everything, and then I'll let Blender go and checker deselect every other one. That's under select, checker deselect. Then it does this, and I think that's kind of a nice pattern. And we can have this, and we have the other version of that as well. I might do the inside later. So that's one option. Then the other option that we have is we can randomly select that, so like random select, and then it just selects, you know, a bunch of random points. This is probably not going to be a great effect, but it's cool if you make a height map. Then you have like a, you know, subdivided plane, and you randomly select pieces, and then with the proportional editing tool you kind of drag that up and you get kind of mountains and stuff. So that's kind of a cool idea. I think so, Jazzy. I think that they're changing the pattern on the outside every year. It's gone through so many iterations. So I think maybe I'm going to go and do the checker deselect, but it also has an impact on our inside. So I'm just going to go deselect the insides here, like so. And I'm going to call that the odds. So I'm going to select the odds, assign. Then I'm going to go and reverse that. So select invert. Then we have that. I'm going to go and deselect the inside again, because that just hasn't worked earlier for whatever reason. And these are now going to be the evens. So assign. Hope I did this correctly. So evens, select as that. Odds, select as that. Both together is that. Perfect. Exactly what I want. So now I can go once again, because like the inside is it defined? No, it is defined. Perfect. Inside is defined as well. Perfect. All right, so 3 material zones, 1 ball, a stick. Good times. So I was thinking we can then go and put one material on one, another on another, and then animate both of them into different colors so that they keep changing as the ball goes down. That's kind of my, you know, that's my plan here. If only we could, Brian. If only we could. Audience applause here. Okay, let's go and save this and then export these bits out. So separately, ball first. For Ohio export. and get our hands dirty in Daz Studio. We still have the 2 OBJ exporters here. I'm going to use a new one. And I will go and make this a new bookmark. There it is. I'm going to make a new folder called OBJs because that's how I roll. And then I'm going to do selected only here. UV coordinates, normals, materials. And it's technically not quite necessary, vertex groups. I want to be on the safe side and click it anyway. And the forward axis is -Z, up axis is Y, so it's going to be correct way around in Daz Studio. Export. Okay, ball it is. Did I call it ball? Or did I just call it unknown object 001? It's just called that, so that's kind of what yeah, okay, that's fine. We can do that. This here, let's export that as well, and we're going to call it pole. Same thing. And I don't know, let's see if that works. 27 Celsius is like summer. Yes, that's right. Popeye, how's it going? I might, shall I save this? I might just save this, just in case we're coming back to it. A new folder in here called it Daz Scenes. Totally going old school on here. And we'll call it Ghost Lights Demo. There. And as soon as this is released, we're going to make a clip about this that you guys know what the script looks like and how it works. And at that point, I probably know more about it, so I can go and show you a few more tips on that. And I'm happy to compare it to Daz Studio 4.20 at that point as well and see what's actually changed. That'd be kind of good to see that. Let's go and import both our bits and pieces in here. The pole first. 10 kilobytes, that's a large object that. I'm going to go and use the Modo scale here. Oh, there we go, that is large. I like it. And when I select it, if I head over, the origin point is in the correct spot. Under surfaces, I can see my material as well. That's perfect. I'm thinking that's going to be kind of a metal. If we head over to my presets, under shaders, under Iray, under metal, I'm sure we can find something like metal silver powder here. Power metal silver. That sounds good. There. It's metally already. Oh, there's one other thing that we should just briefly talk about. It's not something we usually switch off. I don't have a subdivision surface modifier on this, but my pole nevertheless looks round already, except for the top that still looks a little bit edgy. But if you look in the parameters tab here, I don't have an option to change the mesh resolution. It's still on base, so there's no subdivision surface modifier on here. So there's a thing in the way any render engine can describe the objects as smooth or as not smooth. And that is enabled by default. Like in Blender, it's disabled by default. So if you look closely, I can see edges here, and that's because the shading is set to not smooth. And the ball has the same thing. But we can make that happen. So if I bring in the ball in a minute, you'll see that it looks like a round, nice sphere. Daz Studio has this as well, but we just have to know where it is. I find it's easiest to look for it on the surfaces tab, editor, and then on your surface, just look for smooth, and there it is. It's just smooth on. And if you disable that, then it looks exactly like it did in Blender. So now we have that hard faceted look. We usually don't use that in Daz Studio because everything is like characters and all that. It's usually organic, so that's usually set to on. But just know that it's there. If ever you wanted something in, like, shaded not smooth, you can just, toggle that there. So I might leave it on because it looks kind of cool, but we don't have a subdivision surface modifier on it or anything. I just wanted to clarify that. the big ass nut. I like it. I did, Brian. Shall we have another look? Export. I think so. I think I did. I enabled. It was kind of enabled by default. Materials export. That's it. We could do, just for, you know, just because I'm interested in what happens if I disable it. I'll just call it ball no mats. Just out of curiosity, what happens if we were to do that? What happens if we do that? Good point, Brian. I haven't looked into this as either. Ball no mats. Also modo scale. This is still modo scale. It's just kind of switched over to this. So modo is in fact this. So all good. There it is. Ball no mats. In fact, hasn't got any mat. So it has one surface that I guess Daz Studio has created, which is called defaults. Haha. So that's how that works. Good stuff. So in our case, we need that box ticked. And I think it was ticked when I exported it. So just wanted to show you where that is. It is in materials. Haha. And also new, check it out, PBR extensions. So that is not something that is in the standard definition of the OBJ format. So I wonder if Autodesk have made some additions to that we can now export proper PBR surfaces out there. This is something we need to test, Brian. Curious. Let's bring our ball in that has materials. NYE ball. Scale is good. And lo and behold, evens inside and out odds. So the inside, I'm thinking I would like for that to kind of have the same material as this. So that was the Flower Power metal silver. Is that it? Yep, there we go. That's that. So that's also metally. And then for these here, I'm just going to go and indicate them with dummy colors. Like the evens, let's make them kind of blue, something like that. And then the odds, we make them pink for now. It hasn't quite worked here, but it's forgivable. It's okay. So the idea that I had was, oh yeah, I'm also taking the what's it called? I'm making that a little bit metal, maybe, like 0.3, and I'm taking the roughness down a little. So glossy roughness, I might make that like 0.5, just so that it's, you know, or 0.3, so that's not quite that glossy. And then on the other one, in fact, I'll just go and copy that, put that on the evens, and then just change that color back to something like that. There, now we have the same metallicity values there. Okay, hey, that's, you know, a good start. It's a good start. It only took us an hour to get here. Hopefully the animation is going to be a little bit faster now. Let me go save this as a scene, and then I'll show you how we can animate these colors individually as the ball drops down. Let's go do that. File save as. Dash scenes. I'm going to call this one NYE ball drop V1. Great. So the secret about animating shaders, and I think I've discussed this in a Daz Plus stream once, is that Daz Studio can't actually do it natively. And the reason for that is that anything that is keyframeable on the timeline is usually on the parameters tab. So anything here like under general transformations, those things can be keyframed. So pretty much everything that's on the parameters tab, but the surfaces tab is not keyframeable by default. So we need a clever tool that can essentially act as a parameters tab proxy, so to say, for the surface values, so that Daz Studio can go and animate them. And Alvin Bemar, the man behind Fluidos, has in fact made that happen with a product called a BAS. So a BAS is something And Brian's going to give you a link to that in a moment. A Bass is called, it's on sale right now. So if you're interested in what it can do, pick it up before the year is out, as they say. It is Alvin Bamar's animated shader system, and it essentially does exactly that. It has a new tab, and it'll let us animate color values and basically anything and everything on the surfaces tab over time. So you can blend in metallicity over time, you can have transparency go in and out, you can change colors, you can even animate textures on a surface. So if you had something like a bouncing ball or whatever that is saved out as an image sequence, you can go and have Daz Studio animate that. So if you had like a TV, for example, and you wanted to animate a picture that is like an image sequence on the TV, then this product can do that. And I might make another video on how to do that. It can also animate VDBs. So if you're interested in having animated VDB files inside Daz Studio, Abass can do that for you. And the way this works is that it has its own tab. I've got it open here already, but if it wasn't open, you would just go and right click somewhere, anywhere here, and head over to Add Pane, and then find Abass at the very top here. Or you head over here to Window, Panes, Abass. And we only need it really briefly to essentially create that proxy object. Remember to use your punch card. Is that still active? Popeye, which coffee do I prefer? That is a really good question. I vary between brands, but currently I'm drinking a mixture between Bustelo caffeinated, Bustelo and Bustelo decaf. This morning I had Bustelo caffeinated and a Starbucks Verona decaf. Just thought I'd let you know. And thank you. Yes, smooth off. You're right, Brian. Let's go smooth off here. And we can do that on a per surface basis, which is weird. So let's go do that. Smooth off. But only for those faces. The other ones are still on. No, that can't be it. That can't be correct. No, yes, they are. But I think it's not rendered that way. I think if you set it to off on one surface, no, actually it hasn't. Look at that. It does actually work per surface. That is quite funky. You could have one smooth and one non-smooth. I didn't know that. That is new to me. Very cool. Now we have that faceted look there. So if I'm thinking about, I'm glad you like it. No sugar, it's just black. There's nothing else in there. Just black. So if I'm thinking just about the timing of the animation, if I want the ball to drop within 10 seconds from the top to the bottom, and I'd like for the animation, say, to be 10 seconds long, and we're doing this at 30 frames a second, let's go and call it 300 frames or 301. So that includes the 0th frame. So that's my total animation time. And let me go and not animate the movement just yet, and just deal with the colors. So the way to do that is, let's select our ball, and then we go over to Abass, and then we go and hit the first button here, which says create an animated shader. And what that does is it'll go and ask you what are we going to call it, and I might call that the ball shader, or ball shader animation, or you can leave the defaults. Hit return, and then you don't need that tab anymore unless you want to do fancy stuff. And so what we see now is that we have not just our ball, but we also have this proxy object here, which is the ball shader animation, the name I've just given it. And interestingly enough, if I select that and then go over to the parameters tab, then I see in the list of parameters that we have the name of that object. Then we see, whoops, there we go, the name of that object. Then we have Abass, underneath which we have the 3 material zones that our object had. So if I ignore the insides and just have a look at the odds and the evens, I now see all the properties that I saw on a per surface basis, and I can go and animate things with them, geometry and base and colors and all that. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. So if I stick with the pink one, maybe we'll go and if we just animate the whole 10 seconds from one color to another, it's going to be really boring. So I think I'm going to break it up into 2-second snippets. So every 60 frames, I might set a keyframe, or every kind of, maybe every 100. Let's do that. So we have like 3 seconds. So first keyframe is at the beginning, then at 100, at 200, and at 300. Let's do that. That's fairly simple. Oh my God, the butter, and Control S. Yes, sorry. Try no sugar. That's going to be exciting. Does that work? Shake half and half for 4 minutes and out comes butter? I've never tried. So let's do this with the first sequence. Actually, before I get started here, I need to go and tell this shader to be active. So I need to go and enable that up here. So click that, and now we can go to work. So we'll say with the odds on the base, and we'll start with the pink here. We need to go and literally set a keyframe manually. And also, oh yeah, that's the other thing. We don't see keyframes that refer to this at the moment, but that's probably because I just need to shake this around a little, or just change the color value slightly. And then wiggle it around. Nope, that doesn't work. Dang, one of those things. So if you see these on the timeline, you have to make sure that other is enabled, because other refers to all these parameters here. So if that's disabled, then you're not going to see the keyframes that are necessary for that. So let's enable other, and there's that keyframe. So there was a little bit of delay there. So that's that keyframe locked in now. I'm glad about this. So at frame 100, I want to change the pink to maybe something like yellow. Nothing happens just yet, but when you wiggle the playhead, then it goes and you can see it changes from here to there. Maybe yellow wasn't actually a great color choice, Jay. Let's go, don't use yellow, maybe use purple instead. So you got to wiggle and then it'll update. So pink to purple, and maybe purple, I don't know, goes to green perhaps. Could do, and maybe that goes to yellow. How's that? That sounds good. Do that. Okay, that's one color animated. Slightly changes, slowly. That's kind of nice. Okay, perfect. Let's go do the same thing now for the other color. The inside we don't have to do, but the evens. Let's go do that on base. If we start with something maybe like slightly lighter blue like this here, and we can offset that. We can go every 50 frames. That might be nice as well. Have kind of lighter colors like from here to there. Maybe to orange. Oh, that looks terrible, doesn't it? That looks terrible. So I think all the lighter colors, they don't really work all that well. That looks terrible. Let's start with red, actually. Red and pink. Maybe we'll go take this one out here. Delete. So red goes maybe not into yellow because the other one was yellow already. Maybe that goes into green. How's that? Is that cool? Well, you know, it is party time, so why not indeed? This could go into purple. And then maybe that could go into a nice blue that we have, like a blue and yellow here. Maybe a little darker perhaps. If only I had talent. To pick colors. It's the Escher's New Year's Eve's ball. So there we go. So that animates the colors now. That's cool. So we can also add a little emission effect on there. We can even go as far as using other objects as sparkles with ultra scatter. That's another possibility. So we could make a little sphere and make that an emissive kind of glowy thing, and then dot that on the outsides there. We might do that later. see what that looks like now. If we go and play this back, oops. Does that look good? Sometimes I've noticed that the preview doesn't work unless you move your mouse over the viewport. I don't know why, but you know, if I stop, it kind of the preview stops. I don't really know why it does that, but as long as you keep moving, the viewport is being updated. I don't really know why. It just, you know, it's just that. So some of these colors look really psychedelic. Tessellating lizards we do. Sparkles. Yeah, why don't we do that? Sparkles is a good idea. Like reflective little sparkles. I mean, the other thing is we can just make the ball not just go up and down, we can also make it rotate around its own axis. That's something else we can do. I'm going to go and save this out. And just see if I can put that, that little movement animation over there. So if we go and take the ball and use its translate property here. Like 0 at the top and then at the bottom here. There we go. So I don't know if it's if we wanted to have it logarithmic. Oh, there we go. It actually does this now without me having to hover. That's quite nice. Or if we wanted to have it drop linear, that's also a possibility. That might actually be kind of cool that we just do this. All linear. I'll change all the keyframes in a moment. So the next one would be the Y rotate. I suppose 0 is good here, but then at the end, it could be as much as 360. That would be a full rotation. Does it not want to do that? Oh yeah, because the first frame doesn't have a keyframe on it. 0. And now it rotates. All right. That isn't bad. But notice that it kind of starts slow and then it keeps going fast and then it goes and slows down again. So I think since it is kind of a countdown ball, that would probably benefit with being a linear motion. With pinwheel sparklers. So you're saying we could attach a VDB volume and just make that go spin around. That's a possibility. Linear for the countdown. Jazzy is totally with me. I totally agree. Let's do that. So we go and use that basically on all the values, because I think the color change values could also benefit from doing linear motion. I've just dragged an imaginary rectangle here around all my keyframe indicators, and then I'll go over here to this nondescript icon and change that to linear. That's the keyframe interpolation down here. TCB is the logarithmic value and linear is then the linear value. And now it looks like the ball isn't speeding up, it's just slowly going down. Nice. Very cool. We can also make it rotate twice as fast. Kind of slow, kind of works all right. Should we try it twice as fast? Kind of, we'd just like to see what that looks like. Ooh, wouldn't that be cool? Jeremy, maybe we can do that. We could always go and make a geoshell and just put this animated countdown on there. That would be cool. Like basically project that, not so much with the decal, but use a texture on this object and basically have like 3 numbers on the outsides here, and they'll change. That's possible. And Bass could also do that. Let's try it a little bit faster here for the not so much the going up and down, but the spinning around. So can I just type in 720? Would that work? Like as in 720p? Not sure. What are we thinking? Faster or slower? I don't think we want to do poll. I don't think Julia likes doing polls today because it's, you know, it's the last day of the year. So let's not do a poll, but just tell me in the chat, what do you feel? Is this do you feel the ball spinning like this is good, or should we have it slightly slower, or should we speed it up even further? Project into the sparkler smoke. Yeah, good idea. And tell me more about Dick Clark. I don't think I'm familiar with the man. I don't know who he is. I have no idea who he is. 720, right? Yeah, let's keep it at 720. I mean, just out of curiosity, what happens if we make it even faster? So that would be like 960 here. That might be too fast. That kind of breaks the mesmerizing, you know, mesmerizing flow here. Mr. Neville from the future. How's it going, buddy? Tell us about 2023. What's it like? Yeah, bit slower, right? Let's do it. Let's do a poll about a poll, Nate. I like it. That's even better. Too funny. I mean, you know, you can go and have more material zones, of course. That's possible on the ball. 2 is just a nice example there. I think 720 is the spirit. Let's go do that. Let's go do it. Okay, I'm going to go and save that out. And just have a quick look at when the ball lands. And speaking of VDBs, and sadly we won't be able to preview that in Filament. I mean, this is kind of cool because we can just go and see everything in Filament, but VDBs can't be previewed this way. But if we were to use something like one of the free effects from the friendly folks at Django Effects, they're the makers of the EmberGen software. I think I've talked about this in a previous Daz Plus stream. You can generate your own VDB files with EmberGen, but you can also do it in other programs. Blender can do it, I just never figured out how. But you don't have to buy the software. You can use these types of demo files that they give you for free from the Django Effects side. They're a little bit old, so if you use those, be aware that for Abbas to understand this, you need to rename the files. I'll show you how in a moment. But I was thinking, as the ball lands, it can either do this. That's maybe a little bit overkill. Or that. Or just something subtle like this. So I'm thinking, you know, the ball kind of lands and then, you know, something smoky comes up. Or we can have the smoke travel together with the ball. That's also possible. Or we can have something like this tornado do its thing as the ball goes down and the ball kind of goes into the tornado. Those kinds of things are possible with Abbas. And that's kind of nice. I thought I'll show you how to do this because it shows how to deal with both. Well, you can apply the same concept to an image sequence, but you can also apply it to VDB. So it's kind of cool. 12 seconds. Look at that. That's a long kiss. It's not a peck on the cheek then, is it? I like it. It does shockwave. Yes, I'm thinking like here the building implosion. That should be kind of cool here. Let's try to do that. So I'll do this in a new scene, and then we'll just preview how that goes. And once we've set that up, we can go and import it into our scene here, perhaps. So we're sure that this wants to happen kind of at frame 250 maybe, or 280, just before the ball goes down. And at that point we can keep the ball spinning as well. That's we can elongate that animation. But if we think about the VDB starting to come in at maybe frame 280, I'm thinking, let's do that. So save that. I'll go and do this in a new scene. Here we go. And this requires technically a new animation for us. So if we say this building implosion is about 100 frames, then let's say for those two things to match up, let's say this is kind of 400 frames now, our animation. From frame 1 to frame 300, our ball drops. And we said our thing is going to start at about frame 280. Just so that we're all on the same page. So I'll do this with a helper tool that Abas comes with. You can do this with a primitive if you set that up and then rename the surface into volume and then load your VDB files there and then start Abas. But Abas has this tool built in, and I always forget where it is. I think it's under, is it utilities? Or you just search for it. Could be under scripts. Or it's under all products, that's also possible. There it is, Abas Animated Shader System. So it has one prop and that has got these things set up. So you can load that or you can bring in your own. That's both fine. But all it is really, it's called OpenVDB container, and it is just a primitive with the VDB shader applied. And under, so it's called volume, the surface is called volume, that's important, otherwise the VDB file won't be loaded. And in here we have the volume file, so if I load one in there, then I'll get a static image. And we probably also need to increase the density multiplier a little bit so that we can actually see that. So maybe 20 is a good start. We'll see, we might adjust that, but still VDB isn't what we want. We really want the animated sequence in here, and thankfully Abas can do that. So the file there that I've downloaded, building implosion, this is what's in it. So there's literally one VDB file per frame of the animation, and you see they're all different sizes here, and that's because the voxel descriptions inside the files are all different. But there's a small problem with the way this is delivered, and I just wanted you to be aware of it. And this has been changed. If you buy EmberGen now, if you lease it now and you export something, it'll already be properly fixed. But if you download this file for free, then you have to go and do some manual fixing. It's about the leading zeros here. So this is file 0, file 1, file 2, and the next file then in the sequence is called 10. So this has got a 1-digit number and this has got a 2-digit number. And that's a problem for Abas. It needs to be the same padded amount there. So if you then go to frame 99, we have essentially 99 going into 100. So once again, this is 2 digits, this is 3 digits. And ideally this needs to be padded so that there are at least 3 digits all the way through, or 4, it doesn't really matter. There's a tool that you can use, a free tool called the bulk rename utility.co.uk. It's a little thing that's a browser extension in Windows that lets you create something like this. So I've literally renamed these things in place, and then I have padding, and now it'll work with EmberGen. But if you don't have the padding, it's not going to work. So just wanted you to know that. There are other ways to do this. You can use the command line to rename these things, but you know, one of those things. Hey, Mr. John, how's it going? How is it going? You are still in 2022 for half an hour. Good to see. No, actually for an hour and a half. Woo-woo. Power tools, that'll do that. WebSol. Or ren and the DOS command prompt. So there's multiple ways to do that. So imagine I've done it and we're just going to go to work with this. Then I'll have to treat this like another animation file. So I need to go and make this 400 frames. I'm going to have to go and select my OpenVDB container, go to Abas, and then create an animated shader for this. That's just compulsive, and we'll say this is the VDB animation. John, I've just seen that you've made a new video about how to rig clothing in Daz Studio for Genesis 9. That is very cool. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. How's the ZBrush purchase treating you? The unsung Daz assets. Very cool. Thank you, Yoshi. I appreciate that. And Barakas, how's it going? Or is it good time to say Happy New Year, or are you not quite in the new year yet? Ooh, we even got 2 JCMs in there. Look at that. Cool stuff. I gotta watch it later. Barakas, how's it going? Okay, that's that. Now with our VDB animation container selected, we can go over to the parameters tab, open that up. And once again, I have all the descriptions of my volume file, including the tweaked density multiplier that I've just put in here. Totally awesome. Now on a bass here, I need to go and load my first volume file in that I want to use. So that's on the parameters tab, not the surfaces tab. Volume file. Let's go browse. Let's go dig deep into this, and I'm gonna, maybe I'll just leave 0 where it is. I'm just gonna start with 1 because I'm awkward that way. So 1 is the first one. And now let's go to a bass up here, and then we go and enable this first of all. But we're also gonna enable the files animation. And when I do this, 2 other tabs come up here, and one is just a simple completion slider here. The other one is an option that says completion linear interpolation. That is what we want, pretty much like what we had on the ball. We don't want there to be any speed up or slow down. We want this to be a linear interpolation. And this is really clever because say your VDB animation, or you can also use it for still images if you had an image animation, works the same way. Say our VDB animation has about 120 different files, but I'd like them to last 150 frames in my animation. There would be a discrepancy, and with this completion slider you can just say, well, when should I display the first one and when should I display the last one? Give me a keyframe for the first and the last one, and I'll just go and do that. And I'm thinking, hey, that's awesome, because we want for that to be at 0. We want that still to be at 0. What did we say? Kind of 280-ish, thereabouts. Doesn't have to be super accurate. So just wiggle the slider on here. That'll create a keyframe. Or the first one as well. That's also going to be a keyframe here. Wiggle slider. There we go. Keyframe. And then 280. That's also wiggle to create keyframe. So I thought, is that incorrect? Why is there no keyframe? Dang, brother. And then I would like for this to be at 100% at the end of the 400 frames. So now I'll crank up my completion slider, and I should be eventually seeing a keyframe here, but I just don't see it. One of those things. Let's just hope it's there. Also, zoom out, zoom out. Sorry about that. So I can now see that my slider is working, and it looks like my keyframe has worked. It's just not showing on the timeline. I don't know why. It is showing. Oh, it's showing on the container. No, it's just not showing on the timeline. I don't know why. It's okay though. I can see it's working. So from here, from 0 to 280, nothing is happening. And then the slider goes up to 100% at frame 400. And that's kind of exactly what I want. So from here to there, the VDBs are being displayed. Now, I can't see this in Filament, but if we change this over into Iray, see what happens now. Ah, yes. We can see it. We can see that it's sadly kind of on the side. So not exactly what we want, is it? So let's just make a mental note of the following values that we need to tweak. And this has also been fixed in, well, it's not fixed, it's kind of an option how you export things from EmberGen. You can turn them around, and they haven't done that. So I'm going to go and turn this in the x-axis this way around. And that's got to be now on the VDB container. Rotation, X rotate, kind of thinking this way. No, that's the wrong way around. So minus 90. Beware of the keyframes that are being set now. So just make a mental note of that. So this is now too far down. I want for that to be on the floor. Let's look at it from the front. So that needs to also come up some. Whoops, that's rotation, isn't it? Jesus. Translation kind of up. I'm probably okay with it intruding into the ground a little bit. If we just call this 190, 180, 190, 190. let's call it that. Let's call it 190 up and minus 90 in the rotation. This keyframe needs to be at the beginning of my container, of course. So I can either go and move it, or I can go and try to copy and paste it. Let's try that, because I don't want that to animate. Did it work? Looks like it did. It just hasn't done anything here, and now it slowly goes and blows up. Kind of what we want. And if we imagine our ball had just dropped in here, that would be good. Yeah, shame we can't preview this live. That would be ideal. That would be ideal. We may have to go and change the position of that slightly. So just as a reference, let me go and import my pole here, just to see if it's in the middle. Nope, it's not quite in the middle. And rather than moving the pole around, I'm just going to go and move the VDB container around. So that's probably going to be, let's say, a little adjustment into the X here. Let's call it 60. And then a little bit technically in the Z here. I think I'm on the local coordinates. So let's go to world. $60, and let's call it 50. let's call that even 60 and 50. So same thing again. I'll go and grab my keyframe here and hit copy. Go to the beginning and just make sure that doesn't animate into place. It just needs to be there at all times, and paste that in here. And then we can go and delete that. And then it happens right there. Oh no, look, it looks like it's moving. I'll go and paste that at the end as well, so that there's no ambiguity. Come on, Iray, catch up. Do we? Yeah, I don't know. We have the other type enabled, and I don't really know why VDB animations don't show up on the timeline. It's just have to use your imagination, I'm afraid. I don't really know why, but it's a really good point, Brian. I have no idea why. Crazy stuff, that. But with this VDB animation, let's call it good then. What happens if we go and import? Let's get rid of the pole, and let's try to import our ball animation on top of that. So merge that into the scene. Let's see if it works. And that, I don't know if we can render it out, but if we can, that'd be kind of good. Let's try that. I'm going to go and save this out as a regular scene here first. And I'll call this one here the VDB dust cloud. Let's do that. And then I'll go and merge my previous scene into this. Which was on the desktop, was it? NYE ball drop. Yep, there it is. Perfect. And we have our ball. We have both animations together in the scene. Now that's kind of exciting. And we have multiple animated shader systems. We've got the VDB animation and we've got the shader ball animation both in here. Let's see if both still work. So that works. Now preview can only happen in the array. So from here to there, we shouldn't see anything. We should just see changing colors. And then at the bottom here, and I have no idea if this is actually going to work or what this is going to look like. It's going to be interesting to see. Now the ball hits the ground, and as it impacts, we need to keep the ball spinning as well. So we're going to go and take care of that. We get that dust cloud. Very cool, isn't it? Very nice. Let's just make the ball spin for the last few frames here. Oh, that is nice. It would be really cool if we get that rendered as well. Just before midnight in Europe. That'd be really 10 out of 10. Very cool. So ball stops spinning here. And I think this was the actual keyframe, wasn't it? On the ball, that was 720. So I'll go and literally go one frame over to the right, like this one here, and I'll set this to 0 again. Ta-da! Yeah, I think that's a cool idea. We're not gonna see that. It's just gonna go to 0, and then at the end of that, that is then, let's say 180. Like so, 180. That should do it. Just about. Whoops. Hey, that was wrong. So let's say minus 180 first of all. See if it spins the correct direction. You know, dang, uncool. Okay, fine. Let's do plan B then. Remove those keyframes and just take the last rotational keyframe and put that over to the end. How's that? Let's do that. So NYE ball under general transformations rotation, and all we want to do is take this keyframe here and left click and drag it over to the end. There. That should do the trick. So remember, the triangles are not keyframes. They're just markers for where keyframes are hiding. And then keeps turning. Look at that. You know, I always thought, Nate, it would be really cool to have an exhibition somewhere in a science museum type thing and have literally a conveyor belt that goes maybe behind glass, but that goes at the same speed as the equator spins, so that we can literally see how fast that actually is. That'd be kind of cool. I'd love to see that. Ballsy animation, right, Baracus? Absolutely. Very ballsy. All that remains to be done now. But all that remains to be done, set up a camera and see how fast we can render this before midnight. What a challenge. First of all, let's save the scene. And we're going to call that one ball drop animation V2. And I will leave a link to Abbas as well as the new Gold Slide system in the description there later as well. What are we going to do? Square? Square, maybe square. Let's go square. So then it fits on the socials, because you got to have the socials. Does this look okay with the lighting? Should we not at all worry maybe about light and just have this as a proof of kind of principle here? Or shall we have something like a funky HDRI in the background that looks way funkier than that? Maybe just increase it. Or we do sun and sky. We can do that too, just like that. That's maybe cool. Perhaps we're okay with that. Perhaps we're okay with that. We need Times Square. Do they have a HDRI of Times Square? Willie, if you can help me out, if you know where it is, do let me have it. See if the friendly folks at what's my favorite website called again? Not HDRI Haven, it's Polyhaven. Polyhaven should exist. Yes, it should exist. Okay, make it exist. Will it into existence. Come on, HDRI Times Square. Well, let's start with New York. How about that? New York, yes. Well, no. Times. We'll make our own HDRI. Haha. Technically, really, what we need to have is a HDRI animation. Rathaus. That's okay. That's, you know, it's at night. Let's use that. Let's use that. It's out of focus in the background. We're good with that. Will that work? Render Hub has it. Hey, that's going to be... I've got 15 minutes before midnight. I might that's a push. Let's just use this. Rathaus. That's the town hall, by the way, in German. I'll have a look on Render Hub though. That'd be good. Maybe we can refine this. Maybe we can refine this. I don't know if I can share this file. I don't know if you have to have a BAS installed for this to work. You probably have. Probably need to do that. Oh yes, okay. That's like okay. Do you know what? Let me just go and use the other one, and I'm just going to use it as a transparent render and maybe put something else in it. Because I think if this works together with when the dust thing happens, let's just use that. See if we get it rendered before midnight. Let's just use that, and we'll do transparent, and then I'll put something else in it in the post. Let's do that. Let's do that. So size 2000 is probably too big. Let's go with 800, and we'll use an image series. We'll use progressive render. We're probably gonna get away with 50 samples here with filtering, with the denoiser. How long would that take, especially like towards the end here? That is fast, so that is what we're going to do. Let's do that. We're going to get this rendered before midnight, you know. This is going to be great. Constraint proportions. Image series. Let's pick a good place here. Somewhere like in here. And YE ball drop. Just in case I make multiple versions, this is going to be the version number 1. Put that in there, and we'll say ball drop v1 hyphen 1 to 400 and save, switch Iray off, Command R. 400 frames. Come on, we can do this. We can do this. Absolutely. Camera angle. Hey, that's just so much to think about. Sometimes when you're in a rush, you're in a rush. Could do the HDRI black and white. You know, I might just make this. It is transparent, isn't it? I'm not rendering the I'm not rendering the background, so we can just put something else in there, something we render, or something like an image we find on Google or something. An animation we find, you know, with fireworks going on behind it. Now that's the clever way to do it. Let's see if that is all correct. Yeah, it's transparent. That's perfect. let's just use this here. That's going to be in the background. I love it. So obviously not to be used for commercial purposes. And while this is doing this thing here, I'm going to go and prepare this in Premiere. So that'll be nice. That'll be nice. Just add that. I think I have to save it. I think I have to save the image, don't I? I can't just copy paste it. Let me go save it. Save image as. And that's a WebP image. I'm not sure if Premiere can deal with that. Can we do it? 10 minutes to the new year in Europe. Scott, no worries. It was a very, very spontaneous idea. So, you know, you're more than welcome to stay. It's, you know, it's not mandatory viewing. It's just Jay puzzles around with 3D things. Let's put this into animations as well. Nope, sorry, that's in, actually that needs to go in here, and then animation projects, there we go. And this is going to be NYE ball drop. Meanwhile, Daz Studio might already be done rendering. I'm just going to see if Premiere can accept WebP images. I'm not sure if it can. I've never tried this before. It looks like it hasn't got a problem. All right, this is nice. This is neat. Let's make it a little longer, like, you know, 5 seconds here, and see if Daz Studio is already done rendering. Nope. We're still there. We're halfway through. We're halfway through. But this is nice. Let it do its thing, and I'll go and compose things here in Premiere just to see. So Premiere, I'm just using this to combine the image sequence into a video. So even though not all of them are done here, this is what we have so far. It's probably a little fast. Yeah, I think it's twice the speed, so we'll turn that down to 50. Groovy. And if we put our Times Square image behind it, I mean, you know, it's not perfect, but we're getting there. Scale to frame size. No, actually we want to increase that a bit. Scale perfect. There's a dude there, even perfect. And then we probably might have to dim down the opacity because, of course, you know, we need to have our image is like the most important thing here. We can blur it out as well, but that's what it's going to look like. It's not so bad. We may need to do some ground contact shadows. Something else we should have thought about. We can always fake that in here. But most importantly, we need some animation in the background, I guess. There is no quiz on this later. No, I'm afraid not. Were you misled? Actually, the quiz is, I want you to make something like that 100 times better, which probably isn't that difficult, but I would like you to make that and share it on social media and let me know if and when you've made it, and also the problems that you've run into, and let me know what you can do. And it could be a still image, it could be an animation. I'm happy to see all of these things. I'm always eager to see these things. From Brazil, how's it going? Feliz Años Nuevo? Exactly. Tell us all. We know Feliz Navidad, but we don't know Feliz, we don't know the, Happy New Year. Please tell us. We can make a quiz though, with a poll. It's so nice to see you all. What a nice, funky, spontaneous little session. Instead of the donut challenge, Jay creates the spinning ball challenge. Yes, indeed. Hey, that's cool, Willie. You can do still. You can do still. That's cool. Feliz Ano Novo on Portuguese. Okay, I think the Spanish speakers will understand that. Feliz Ano Novo. Is it ano or is it año with a wavy line on the top? Sorry, Nate. You were misled. You were misled. Come on, 50 frames to go. 6 minutes until midnight in Europe. This is cool. This is cool. Hey, this is really nice. You guys, anyone from Europe who's watching this instead of partying with their folks, very much appreciated. Web Soul, for example. Super, super cool. Wonderful to see you. It's great. Yeah, can you imagine that in real time? That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Año in Spanish. Okay. Feliz Año Nuevo. I love it. We are our folks. That's it. That's the way to go. That's actually something really nice to remember. Things are what you make of them. Do you know, on my return on YouTube, I'm just opening Premiere now, so I'm kind of way behind. It's crazy stuff. If Mixer still existed. Hey, did you know there's a new platform that have implemented mixers, like FTL protocol, that's what it's called. They're called Glimesh.tv. And I tried them out. It's a bit unstable, but they have that super low latency streaming that Mixer used to have. So right, Willie as well. Indeed, yes. Willie, you and Willie, absolutely, yeah. Same time zone. Yes, Glimesh.tv, and it's free to register. They have pretty much all the features that Twitch has, but with FTL streaming. But they're a self-funded kind of starter company. I'm going to go and delete this and import the image sequence again because it is now longer than it was before. Way longer. There, and that needs to be also at 50%, only because I've got my default frame rate is 60 frames and we rendered this in 30 frames. So haha, and that's the smoke basically killing that guy there. That's exciting. Well, can I do this better? Yeah, let's do this on full quality. Let's see if my computer can do that. It works! Look at that! Made in Daz Studio. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. And it fizzles out. That's not bad. I gotta say, for a couple of hours doodling, that's not bad. I have to say, animated shaders, metal shaders, a bit of modeling in Blender thrown in, material zones left, right, and center, animated shaders, animated VDBs. Come on, that's exciting. Our ball has dropped already. VDBs are complex to work with, yes. I thought I'd throw it in, and thank you so much for the suggestion there. I really appreciate you making that. Do you know, I might be able to render this out as a GIF and then post it up so that on YouTube, so that it kind of, there and on the socials. We have our own ball drop here. That's very cool. Oh, that is just nice. Especially if we do it at a slow frame rate. I'm sure that fits into the 5 or 6 megabyte limit. Isn't that cool? 3 minutes. We're gonna have this. Is there a way for me to put this on loop? Sage, do you know this? Is there a way to put Premiere on loop? Like loop playback? That's got to be possible. I've just never looked into that. Is that even possible? Well, what I could do is is just turn this into a sequence and call that ball drop loop. That'll be good. And then I'll just go and copy paste that a few times so that we can go and literally have that on a loop. There, and that should do the trick. And if I could even should I put the default transition in there as well? Possible. Apply video transition and it's insufficient frames. That's cool. We're okay with that. Yeah, but it looks good, doesn't it? So we love the transition. Alrighty, perfect. Now I can just go. And save, Jay. Yes, save. I think that's a good idea. What does that look like? Yeah, there we go. That's just awesome. And then we just go our own animation. Woohoo! Oh my god, it's like 1 minute to go. I don't have a countdown here. I should bring a countdown up. That'd be awesome. I can only tell you that on my clock now it's like 5:59. So cool. Look at that. Hydrate. Yes. Happy New Year, everyone. It doesn't matter if it's 30 seconds away or if you're already in there. It's been such a pleasure having you here and being with you on New Year's Eve 2022. This is really cool. Yes, there it is. Happy New Year to Europe. You're now officially in the future. Wonderful. What's it like? Woohoo. It's our new year. Let's make it work for us. Let's make things happen, my friends. It's been so cool being here with you, and this is just so much fun. So much fun to be had with Daz Studio and Blend and all these good things. Yes, I think so too, Sage. It's good for me to stream as well. It's been, you know, I've enjoyed some time off, and I'm looking forward to doing more in the new year. Really looking forward to seeing more of you, seeing more in streams as well as clips, and doing more things, and we'll see where it takes us. My friends, have a wonderful good night. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit, and I'll just say goodbye and good night. I'll see you when I see you hopefully in my new year. We still have about 5 hours and 58 minutes left of it. The UK still has another hour of 2022. You guys go party as if it's 2022 or 23, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care, my friends. Bye bye.